Hey friends, hope you have your coffee ready. I do not have any coffee at all today. I'm outside, it's a little bit rainy, there's a lot going on in the house. I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's just better if I came out here. I'm underneath a gazebo in the backyard, and I can hear a squirrel yelling at me up in the tree, wanting some peanuts, and I have some peanuts. If Minnie, my favorite squirrel, will come down, maybe you guys will get to see me hand feed her. But I want to talk today, since Halloween is right here about us. I want to talk about my 5 favorite horror movies of all time. And man, I'm terrible at lists and stuff like that, but I figure I'm going to give it a good shot. 5 favorite horror movies. I'm trying my best to stay focused on what I think horror movies are. So I'm going to say we're not talking about science fiction or space movies or whatever. I enjoy that kind of stuff. But I'm leaving like Jaws off the list because I'm thinking classic horror. And even though it's a great movie, I'm leaving Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes, off the list, although I absolutely love that movie. And so I'm leaving that kind of stuff off. It's sort of sci-fi. And I'm going to go for the classic horror. And maybe you guys will see what I dig as I go into this. I'll start it off with, might as well say, when people ask me, what's your favorite horror movie? I really hate those kind of questions because you end up, I don't know, but I figure you got to say something. People want to have fun, and that's what we're doing here. I'll say my favorite today is Rosemary's Baby. I really love the dread and that sense that everybody else, you can't trust anyone around you, that paranoia that it works on with you. I really dig that with Rosemary's Baby. It's creepy, and there's no monster through the whole thing. There's just that whole underlying, what the hell is going on? Is she crazy? That whole thing. And then at the end, when what'd you do to his eyes? And he has his father's eyes, and complete creepiness. And I think that's a perfect horror movie for my taste. It's a great movie either way. Oh, here comes a squirrel. But it's a great movie either way. But I really, that's a good one. So I put that number 1 on the list. And from here on out, I'm just not going to say any particular order. But since I said Rosemary's Baby, that comes to mind when I think of Rosemary's Baby is The Witch. I saw that a few years ago, and man, it just really, really felt like Rosemary's Baby to me. I really enjoyed it. The sense of dread and the darkness of the whole thing was pretty great. I really enjoyed that. And then at the end, I won't spoil the ending for whenever you guys, I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. But the ending, they just completely own it. And I like that. Sometimes it's a little bit flaky and you don't know, they try to, was it really happening or wasn't it happening? And they completely own it. But then later on, I remember I watched it again, and weren't they eating mush or corn or something, like some kind of a corn mush, something like that? And it looked like it had some kind of discoloration, like it was molded or something. And I've heard people say that back in those days, people would eat this mold that would form on the corn or whatever, and they would have hallucinations. So it kind of threw it back, thinking, wow, maybe the filmmakers meant for that whole thing to be a hallucination. So that was cool. A whole nother layer that I hadn't thought of was thrown on top of it, and I really enjoyed that. So we'll say there's 2. Night of the Living Dead. I absolutely love Night of the Living Dead. I think it's one of the, obviously I think it's one of the great horror movies of all time. I love the fact that it's low budget. I love the fact that the brave person, was a black man back in those days, and that did not happen on the screen very much. I really dig that. I like the nihilistic ending of, him getting shot once he's finally escaped it, shot by the people who are coming to rescue. The whole thing just, I really, really dig it. I don't remember if I've said this or not, but I don't know, 6 years ago, I went and played a gig in somewhere up north of Pittsburgh in Beaver, Pennsylvania. My buddy Matthew Ryan, we did a gig there together. It was really fun. Had a really good time and got to see Matthew while he was living there. But I got into town too early. Not into town, but I got into the area too early. And I was going to get a hotel when I got up by there, but I sat and remembered Night of the Living Dead was filmed somewhere north of Pittsburgh, and I started looking around, and I saw that the graveyard in the opening scene where, if you guys have seen it, when Barbara, and I forget the guy's name, they're walking around in the graveyard and the whole thing starts. That graveyard is somewhere up north of Pittsburgh, so I went ahead and went up there, and the sun was going down, and I was like, man, it'd be nice to see this in the broad daylight. And I said, the hell with it, and I slept in that graveyard that night. So the graveyard where they filmed Night of the Living Dead, I actually slept there, and when the sun came up, I went ahead and found like 2 stones that were in the movie. There's one scene where Barbara is resting against a stone like this, and you can kind of see it close up, and I went and found that same stone. That was pretty great. But I love the Night of the Living Dead movies. And when I was a kid, the nightmares that I would have would be about zombies. So it's kind of weird where later in life, zombies really became a big deal in pop culture or whatever, or horror. I don't know, the zombie apocalypse was something I thought about a lot as a kid, which is ridiculous, but, overactive imagination, when you're a kid and you haven't figured out the outlets to use that imagination, sometimes you have, zombie thoughts and stuff like that. But I also loved Dawn of the Dead. And we had on the east side of Indianapolis, we had this old shopping mall called Eastgate that was dying. I mean, it was dying in the 70s. I don't remember it ever thriving in my lifetime. But man, we would go there. My mom would take me over there to shop, and it would be just completely empty. Just completely empty, and I would get creeped out because it reminded me of the shopping mall in Dawn of the Dead. And so I never liked going over there as a kid. And then a little bit later, that was kind of neat that it was empty. I also took a Greyhound bus. It's a little bit much about zombies, I apologize. I also took a Greyhound bus from, I was heading to Washington, D.C. to catch a flight to go overseas. And it stopped somewhere in Pennsylvania. I don't know where. I may have mentioned this before. Stopped somewhere in Pennsylvania at a shopping mall. And it parked in the parking lot and had everybody go in and use the restrooms. So I ran in, and as I was walking through with my buddy, I was just like, this looks familiar, man. This looks really familiar. You can hear Wendell in there. Like, this looks really familiar. And my buddy, was like, man, I think I know what this is. This is the shopping mall where they filmed Dawn of the Dead. And he was right. And it was empty, and it was just so cool to have this random chance to go in there. And we had probably 15 minutes after we used the restroom to stand around and gawk, and that's where they shot such and such. That's where that was, and then we had to get on the Greyhound and start heading east. So Night of the Living Dead. I would put Dawn of the Dead on there too, but that's not fair. I would say that's 3. If I wanted to go for 4, let's say Bride of Frankenstein. I think visually, the last 15 or 20 minutes of that movie are completely stunning. I mean, completely stunning. It's so, once they start bringing her to life and the Tesla coils are all going up, and they have every shot is just beautiful. It looks like the modernist photographers came in and composed everything. Like Paul Strand said, let's set it up right here. There's this moment when they start bringing her to life, all of the camera angles get tilted, where it's not just dead on anymore. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I liked it as a kid. I always liked the movie and her, the way she looked. And so I always dug that as a movie. But as a kid, you know. But later on in life, I watched that like 6 or 7 years ago. And I was just like, man, this is beautiful. I mean, it's really gorgeous. The filmmaking is pretty amazing, and the cinematography. So if you guys watch that again, pay extra attention there towards the end and think, man, I wish there were more movies that looked like this. And really enjoyed that. For the fifth one, the last one on the list, I'm not really sure what to go with. I'll just say Nosferatu, because I saw that at the drive-in earlier this year, and I talked about that for a while. I don't know. I love the fact that it was made 100 years ago, and it still stands up. It still looks beautiful, and I don't know. And he's creepy as hell. Something about it being low tech and low tech. It was pretty good tech for back then, but you know, just so ancient and degraded film now, it just makes the whole thing look a lot creepier. And I really dig that one. And I don't remember what episode, man, but I talked about going to the drive-in earlier this summer, and Amy and I seeing Nosferatu, you know, silent movie, and it was freaking great. There's a guy that played the organ along with it, and that they brought down from Chicago. Just a really great experience. And I talked about it for a long time if you want to go back and listen to that episode. My mom used to take me to horror movies when I was really young, 5 or 6 years old. Seems like we went and saw The Exorcist when I was like 6 or 7 or something like that, which was, she liked scary movies, and man, it was pretty damn creepy to me. And but I didn't, you know, as a kid. I remember seeing The Omen at the theater and not understanding it. It's just such a great movie, and it's a little heady for a kid, you know, so I just didn't really get it, so that one didn't creep me out too much. But when I'm thinking of honorable mentions, you know, there's a movie, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Haxan, Haxan, Haken. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's a silent movie, and it's Haken, Witchcraft Through the Ages, and you can see some clips on YouTube of it, and talk about creepy as all hell. I mean, it's these images of the devil and hell and stuff like that, and witches, and it's pretty amazing. Some of the posings of these demons or whatever, they're all like, they look like dancers. They look like they're right out of a Bill Traylor painting, of when you see the images of people dancing or the devil standing on a rooftop or whatever. It looks just like that. And I love Bill Traylor, so it popped into my head. And go look that up. It's a really, really creepy, strange thing that stands up. It's very old, and I don't know. I can't imagine what people thought back then when they saw stuff like that. I mean, I just can't imagine. We're sophisticated people now, and we've seen a few things, but I can't imagine what seeing something like that on the screen would have been like to people. And you know, or Nosferatu. There's remember my mom telling me when she saw Dracula when she was a kid, like the original Dracula, and people screaming and running out of the theater because it was so scary and too much. I can't imagine, you know, what's if they saw the witch or something like that now. But when I was a kid, we had this guy on Channel 4 every Friday night? I think every Friday night. It was Sammy Terry. He was like he hosted the horror movies, and he was a ghoul zombie sort of thing, and he was our local. It would be out all through central Indiana. I've heard people in Louisville say that they could catch it, and maybe just over the border in Illinois or Ohio, they'd be able to catch Sammy Terry. But he would play movies like Bride of Frankenstein, you know, and stuff like that. And man, I set up religiously. I remember first time I saw Blackula was on Sammy Terry. That was great. Black Sabbath, first time I saw that was on there. That was great. And so it'd be like the Hammer stuff, you know, and then Universal horror films, but there would be some low budget ones, you know, in there that were really cool. And I enjoyed that. Then on Saturday night, had science fiction theater. Oh, there's a car going by. Actually, a school bus. The Saturday nights was science fiction theater, and there would be Godzilla movies, you know, and stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. Just always loved. I don't know. It's all fantasy. I don't believe in any of that stuff, so it's fun and it's fantasy and it's creepy as a kid, and you know, I get a kick out all of that. The creature from the Black Lagoon. That's beautiful and amazing. And when you see those scenes of him swimming underneath the water, and you think all that had to go into that. And wasn't there a woman that designed the suit that didn't get credit until recently? You know, it's a familiar tune. But I'm curious, who was the horror movie host around you guys, like wherever you're from? I know Sven Gulli was up in Chicago. We started watching, I guess it's not the original Sven Gulli. It's whoever's doing it now. We've watched that over the last 10 years or so every now and then. I don't watch much TV, so I don't know about all this stuff. And I also I went forever without watching TV, and didn't have one for a while. So I didn't know television got as good as it got. But so I never watched Walking Dead until I was in a hotel room somewhere, and I just turned on the television, and it was the episode where the prison fell, and I could not believe how good television was. I was just like, why am I not watching this? So I binged a bunch of that stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Once Negan came around, I didn't really like it anymore. And then when Rick didn't kill Negan, I just thought, that's all I can take. I'm out. And so I stopped watching it at the end. I was like, I don't know, man. It's in the real world, maybe I'd be a little more peace and love, but I'm watching things on television. I was ready for avenging Glenn's death. But anyway, so who is the horror movie host where you guys are from, if you had one? I know there were different ones in different markets all across America. I don't know if there were some overseas or not, like Elvira, that kind of thing. Was it LA? I'm curious who those were. And what are your 5? I should have asked that right off the top. What are your 5 favorite horror movies? And we're keeping horror movies, we're not putting science fiction and space and stuff like that in there. But tell me what yours are, if you can think of them. It'd be fun to share down below. And I will say that I fly out in like 2 days overseas, and I have no idea what my upload schedule is going to be like. It might get really slow. It might not, but I'm going to keep trying to share things, and I appreciate if you guys click on it and all that. And I have my cat Daryl just had surgery, and he's doing good, but he's inside and everything's a little bit crazy right now. So I'm going to go back in and take care of Daryl, and Amy's going to be dealing with that while I'm gone. And I'm going to try my best to help out before I leave and all that. And I hope that I hope you guys have a fun Halloween. I want one more story. I'll tell one more Halloween story. If you guys saw the video I uploaded a few days ago, you get a kick out of that. I remember like 1988 or 89, I'm living in an apartment, and I didn't even realize it was Halloween. I just didn't realize it. And I was there with a buddy of mine and my ex-girlfriend, and kids knock on the door, and I open it up, and they're like, trick or treat? And I'm like, oh God. I opened the door, and I'm just like, hang on a second, I'll go find something for you. And I go run into the kitchen area. I got nothing. I'm like a bachelor with some crappy apartment. And I looked, I had like 5 or 6 pizza boxes stacked up on the kitchen counter. And I got in there and I pulled out the pizza bones and broke them up and kind of like held them in my hand like this and went in there like, oh, here you go, and dropped it in the bag, dropped a pizza bone in the kid's bag, dropped another one over there, and they couldn't see what I had, but they heard something land and they're like, thank you. And they took off, and I guess when they got down the street, they'd figure out who gave them pizza bones. And my buddy just laughed his ass off, and my girlfriend was not impressed at all. At all. That was the correct response from her, but that was many, many years ago, and I'm gonna try to treat the kids right if they show up this year and make up for it. No pizza bones. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good Halloween. If you celebrate it, if you enjoy it, have fun with it, put on a monster movie. Tell me what your top 5 are, and I will try to share as much as I can while I'm on tour. But much love to y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.